let's make another tiny little knit from a remnant ball of yarn from an earlier sock knitting project. This is dark gray, and it reminded me of a little mouse. And one of you wanted to learn how to knit a little mouse. So let's do that. Here is 1, 2. Okay, I only have 2 stitches. Now we're going to go back and forth, sliding left and right as we knit for 20 times. We want a little chain that's going to be its little tail. So here we go. 1, 2. Slide over. 1, 2. Slide over. So notice I'm never turning the work here. 1, 2. You could also finger knit or crochet this chain, but it's also fun to learn this technique because you can have 2, 3, 4 stitches and keep sliding left and right, and you will make different thicknesses of chain. That's like a rope, like a cord. How many did we do so far? 3. 4. 5. 6. Keep sliding over, don't turn it around. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. Let's do one more. Let's have 21. Okay. Now we are going to need more stitches than this for the next part. So we're going to turn these 2 stitches we have into 4. How are you going to do that? You're going to put your needle through the front of the first stitch and grab your yarn, pull it through. Don't jump off the stitch yet. Go through the back of the stitch now. Grab the yarn. Now you have two. Now you can jump the stitch off. Let's do the same thing with the second one. From the front side, now from the back side. See, I go through the middle here from the back side. I have 4 stitches now. I will turn and purl them. I like to always slip the first stitch. It really helps things look smooth and nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need to turn these 4 into 8 in the same way. From the front of the stitch, once, through the back of the stitch, once, I made 2. This stitch, I need to turn it over so that I can actually do this. From the front, from the back. Also, I need to turn over my stitch, and now I go from the front, from the back, and the last one, from the front and from the back. I now have 8 stitches. Let's purl, turn the needle and purl all 8. Slip the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Turn your work. We need to do this one more time to turn these 8 stitches into 16. From the front, from the back. If your stitches are coming to you open, I call it open, then you need to twist them around. Not twist them. You see, this is what I call an open stitch. It makes a knit stitch very easy, but it doesn't work. It'll twist it for making 2 in this way. So I want to flip it over, and then I can go from the front and from the back easily. See, it's open. I want to flip it over, and then it's not going to twist on me when I do knitting from the front and the back. So that's what I'm doing here. If it's hard to see, I wanted to slow down to show you how if you try this, it's going to be very tight and it's going to start to twist. So you want to flip it over. It will make it easier. The other way is not incorrect. It's just very difficult, and it creates very tight, twisted stitches, which, like you saw in some sock projects, you want that. For this specific little figure, it's not really needed. Okay, I have 16. Now I turn and I purl them. I slip the first 1, and then I purl 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, in this row now we will do slip 1, knit 1, knit 1 more. Now make 2 from this one by go from the front, go from the back, knit 1 again, make 2 by go from the front, go from the back, knit 1, next make 2, go from the front, go from the back, knit 1, next turn and go from the front, go from the back, knit 1, make 2 by go from the front, go from the back, knit 1. So here again, see, I want to flip it over, knit from the front, knit from the back, and knit the last 2 stitches. I shall have 22. Let's purl and count and see if we have 22 stitches. Slip the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Next row, slip 1, knit 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now flip and make 2 from 1, through the front, through the back, knit 1, then again flip, make 2 through the front, through the back, knit 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn and slip the first stitch and purl to the end of the row. You may be wondering what size needles to use, what type of yarn. Use the needles to match your yarn. I'm using a remnant from sock yarn, so that also means that I'm using sock knitting needles that are 2.75 millimeters. But you might have a different weight of yarn and will need thicker needles. So check the label on your yarn. It's going to tell you the size of the needles that you need. Okay, so now slip 1 and knit 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make 2 from 1. Remember, I turn it over so that I can knit through the front, knit through the back, knit 1, then again flip it over and knit through the front, knit through the back, and finish the row. Now I want to purl all stitches. I slip the first one and purl to the end of the row. This is the widest place on the little mouse body. Now we're going to start decreasing to work our way to the nose. So the first thing we will do is knit the first 2 stitches together. I put my needle through the 2 stitches that come first. I grab the yarn, pull it through, and jump both of them off. Now I knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now I want to knit 2 together again. I put the needle through both. I pull the yarn through both and jump them off. Now I want to knit 2 together again, but I want the line to come nicely in the same direction. So I'm going to switch the order of the next 2 stitches. This way my mouse is not going to twist to the left, but it's going to be centered. Now that I switched the order, the first is second, the second is first. Now I knit them together. Oops, my yarn is splitting, so I have to be careful. And now I knit 1 all the way to the 2 last stitches. Then I'll knit the 2 last stitches together. Here are my 2 last stitches. I will knit them together. And I turn my work and purl across. Slip the first stitch and purl to the end. To give it a little bit of shaping, you know how mouse doesn't really have a neck, but there is a little bit of shaping there. It's not always completely straight, and the figure is going to look nicer if there's a little bit of a shape that's not completely straight. So we're going to now do 1 increase, then we'll go back to decreasing. That will make like a little bit of a shape here, just enough to suggest transition to the head. So we're going to slip 1 and knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I will flip it over so I can make 2 from 1 by go through the front, go through the back, knit 1, again flip over the next one, make 2 by go through the front, go through the back, and now knit to the end. That was our little transition increase moment, and now we're going to purl back and continue decreasing to the nose. So let's purl back. Now we're going to decrease by 8 stitches. So we will take 1/4 of, we have 24, 1/4 will be taken out. That means we have to do knit 1, knit 2 together. But first we will go in this direction. Slip 1, knit 2 together. That's once. Knit 1, knit 2 together. That's twice. Knit 1, knit 2 together, that's 3 times. Knit 1, knit 2 together, that's 4 times. We are in the middle. Now we're going to start decreasing, but we want to have the same orientation. So we will knit 1, and we switch the order of the 2 stitches. The first is second, the second is first. And then knit them together. Knit 1, switch the order of the 2 stitches. First is second, second is first. Knit them together. Knit 1, switch the order. First is second, second is first. Knit them together. Knit 1 and knit the last 2 together. Okay, purl. Now turn and knit as it is. Turn and purl as it is. Okay, now we want to decrease by 5 stitches. So we're going to slip 1 and knit 2 together. That's once. Knit 1, knit 2 together. That's twice. Knit 1, knit 2 together. That's 3 times. Knit 1, switch the order of the stitches, and knit 2 together 4 times. Knit 1, switch the order of the stitches, knit them together 5 times and knit the last stitch. Now purl as it is. And knit as it is. And purl as it is. Now comes our last decrease row for this part of the project. You will knit 2 together once, knit 2 together twice, knit 2 together 3 times. Next 2, switch the order, knit together 2 4 times, switch the order, knit them together 5 times, and the last one. Now you have 6 stitches left. We're going to purl them. Okay, now we need a sewing needle. We will cut off a long tail of yarn. Thread the sewing needle. Now we will take the stitches off from the knitting needle with our sewing needle. Just take them off like so and pull the yarn through. Pull it tight. Look at this. Okay, first we're going to turn this inside out and we're going to start sewing from the nose. So pull it tight. Then go through the few stitches here one more time and pull it tight again. Okay, so now I need my glasses. For the tiny knit, we need to sew it. You can use a whip stitch or a back stitch or a blanket stitch. You choose the one that you like to sew with the most. You don't need to try to make knit stitches here. We will turn it inside out anyway. You just want to be sure that you sew it nicely shut so that we can turn it inside out and stuff it and put a few last finishing touches on this tiny little mouse. I'm going to come all the way down here to where my finger is and leave a little bit of opening for stuffing. On these simple tiny knits, you don't have to be very particular with sewing like you need to be on clothing and sock projects. Right, now we're going to turn it inside out. Let's grab some stuffing. So here's some wool roving. I'm going to stuff the little mouse. You can decide how stiff or soft you want it to be. And then we want to close the opening. Now you're sewing from the nice side, so you want to follow the stitches here. You want to be more careful than when you were sewing from the inside. And we can nicely hide this end inside the body. It's gonna felt into the roving. It will be safe and secure there. We want to get rid of the tail of the tail end. Now the tail of the tail end will go through the cord You're doing like a super simple running stitch through the middle of the cord, and look, it's gonna let you shape the tail at the end. You'll see. Just get through, and I'll show you how you can pull on the yarn and give it a little curl. And if you don't want it to curl, you can just leave it flat. So you see, you can kind of pull it a little bit, give it a little bit of a curl. And if you don't want that, you can leave it flat. We're gonna carry this yarn all the way to the body, and we will hide it inside there as well. Putting the yarn back into my needle. Just go one little step at a time through the tail cord that you made. You can see how my yarn keeps slipping out of the needle. Just move more slowly and it will stay secure. Okay, so now look, I may want to give it a little bit of a curl here. If you don't, that's okay. You don't have to. Then I'm gonna cut off. All right, next I will show you how to make the little ears and the little eyes. So here we can see how our little figure already looks like a tiny mouse, but we can add more details to it. You could, if you wanted, to use a sewing needle and some black yarn, maybe some pink yarn for the eyes and the nose. but I would like to use some wool roving for those. For I think it would be really fun to show you how you can combine some needle felting with your tiny knits. So I have a little bit of dark indigo, almost black, a little bit of natural color roving, and a little bit of pink roving. I have my felting needle. So first I'm going to do the little nose. This will be the bottom, so I'm going to put my little figure like this. Then I will put some wool right on the nose and do a few little pokes. Now, if you don't have this type of needle, but have a single felting needle, that's okay too. You can use a single felting needle. And sometimes on such small, tiny things, it's going to work even better because you have wool roving inside. So it's going to felt nicely in. Now, depending what you're going to do with your little figure, you will have to decide whether this nose is a few stitches of pink yarn or needle felted on. Think about the use and the purpose. You can add little whiskers later as well, but let's start here. You can use toy eyes if you want to use toy eyes. That's going to be perfectly fine. So think about what you have on hand. If you don't have any wool roving, then grab a sewing needle and some yarn in pink and then black or dark navy color, and or even brown would work. So I'm thinking where I want the little eye to be. You want, if you're doing it with the roving, you want a pretty big little clump because the roving is so fluffy, and then you can felt it into the figure and make your eyes smaller and smaller as you do it. Again, this can also be a few stitches of dark yarn. Doesn't have to be wool, but if you have some on hand, it can be really fun to do it this way. This is a little too big. Be careful that the eyes are across from each other, so just adjust as you need to. It's our tiny little mouse. We will need some nice little ears. We may want a tiny little dark detail on the nose, so it doesn't look so strange. Depending on how detailed you want to get with this, you can make whiskers. You don't have to make whiskers. You can make, I think this nose is a little too big, so I'm going to shave off a little bit of this wool rowing. So also do that with yours. Pay attention, see if it's a little too big. Shave it off. Now that looks so much better for this size. This is a tiny knit. Remember, we can stylize toys and figures in so many different ways. This is a tiny little mouse. And now we want to make the little ears. So let's get our knitting needles and the yarn. Our ears need to be tiny. So let's cast on one. Make a longer tail. It's always better to have a longer tail. It's easier to cut it off if you don't need it for assembling the toy. 1, 2. Slide it over, don't turn, and then let's make 4 from these 2 by knit through the front and knit through the back. Now next one, knit through the front and knit through the back. Now we will turn. Let's slip 1 and purl 3. Now we will turn and we will add 1 stitch. The first one we will knit through the front and knit through the back and knit to the end. 3, 4, 5. Turn. Slip and purl to the end. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of a trick here. We will cut this off. We will take a sewing needle. We will thread the cast-on tail through our sewing needle. So we will bring this tail along the edge just a running stitch. You bring it along the edge to the ending here of the row. Now you're going to thread both of these lines of yarn into your needle. Now you're going to put the knitting stitches onto your sewing needle. And you're going to pull. Let's trim. So now you pull and the ear is ready to be attached. So we'll attach it like right here above the eyes. And you don't need much, no complications, just a couple of stitches. Adjusting to how you want them positioned and pushing your needle all the way out. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my yarn to the nose to give some detail to the nose, but I'll secure it by putting the needle around the stitch here. I'll come all the way out to the nose. Keep my yarn in the needle. I'm going to make one stitch here to give a nice detail to the nose. And then I'll come back here and pull these two out. They'll become my little whiskers. So I'll trim them down like this. There we go. Maybe this one needs to be a little shorter. There we go. Now we need to do the other side. If you imagine them going around the wood pile, maybe you will see how they can flatten themselves, make themselves scrunched up and flat and tiny. It's quite remarkable, actually, how they are very interesting creatures. Okay, time for the second ear. Let's leave our little mouse here to sleep. So you can see this ear, you can see the bottom. You can think about the bottom. Do you want to make little legs or not? So remember how we did that ear? We do it again. We leave a long tail. We cast on 2 stitches. 1, 2. Take one needle out, slide it over, make 4 from 2. Knit through the front, then knit through the back, and then do it again. Knit through the front, and knit through the back. You have 4 stitches. You're going to turn your work, and you're going to purl, slip the first one, purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn. You're going to add 1 stitch by knit through the front, knit through the back. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn your work, slip the first stitch and purl 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need the sewing needle. We trim off the yarn here. We need the sewing needle. Gonna go running stitch along the edge to come to the end of the knitted row here. Then you're gonna take both lines of yarn and thread them into your needle. Now you're going to put your knitted stitches onto your sewing needle here. And you will pull through and tight. And the second ear is ready to be mounted onto the figure. So we come here behind the other eye. And there's no way for me to really instruct you on where and how specifically to measure this. You have to stitch your little eye and then just judge where does it go? Where do you want it to be? How are the ears? Are they standing up? Are they flat down with the head? You know, where is this little creature going? How is he moving? And now I come up here. So notice how with this yarn, I came right here where we had that little, remember how we were expanding? Decrease and another increase. So I wanted to come right there. And then from there come to the nose. Add one more stitch to the nose detail. Make this, if you pull it right there, it's going to give you a little bit of a head. You can see that. Okay, come to the nose, stitch to the other side and out for the whiskers, right across from this first whisker. Okay, don't lose the first ones, and then trim these. There we go, has little whiskers now too. All right, here you have to decide, do you want to make the legs by knitting little I-cord like this and attaching them to the bottom? Or do you want to stitch them on or felt them on? You get to decide. So I think on these miniature little knits, it's a lot of fun to make little legs. Now you're going to notice that they're going to have legs that are brighter than their coat. The only color I have right now is this color, and it's a little too bright in my opinion, but that's what I have. So because I don't have any pink color, I'm going to put this and this together. So when I put them together, I will only need a couple of stitches. So I'm going to make 4 tiny little feet. Here is my cast on 1 stitch. But with my double yarn, I already have 2 loops. So I'm going to slide over and knit through 1 and through 2 one time, slide over, knit 1 and 2, second time, slide over, knit 1 and 2, third time, slide over, and first measure. If I go bigger, I'm gonna have pretty big feet for this tiny little mouse. So let's tie it off by going through both of these together. So knit 2 together. It's one little leg. It looks very strange, but it's gonna work out. We need 3 more. Okay, cast on 1 with this double yarn. If you want to use a single color, you'll just cast on 2. Okay, so now I knit 1, 2 ones. I did it 3 times here. So this is 1 time, 2 times, and 3 times. Slide over and knit these 2 together. I have 2 little legs, 2 more. Cast on 1 with my double yarn. Slide over, knit 1, 2 ones, 1, 2 twice, 1, 2, 3 times, and knit 2 together. I have 3 little legs, 1 more. Cast on 1 with my double yarn. Slide it over, knit 2, 1, 2, slide over, 1, 2, that's twice, slide over, 1, 2, that's 3 times, slide over, and knit 2 together. I have 4 little legs, 4 little feet. Now I need to sew them on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this long thread. I'm going to get one of these positioned here, and I will attach it, and this will give me the position for the leg right across, the little foot right across. I'm gonna leave it like this for now. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna go through the leg and back to the same place. So you see, even though they looked kind of big for feet for such a tiny mouse, when I pull and secure them, they're gonna look smaller. Now notice this, I don't like where it is. It's kind of too high. So I'm just gonna pull it out. That's all you gotta do. You just pull it out and you do it again. And we try again and see where does it go. Where is the right place to put this foot? Let's see if this will be better. Now I think this is a little better, but maybe still a little too far in the front. So I'm going to take it out and do it again. My little mouse really needs a little break. Now if at this point you're deciding you don't really even want to put the feet on, I think your miniature will still be very cute little mouse. I like these feet right here. This will be so much better. Now I'm going to take this other tail and help myself have the position for the foot across on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go through here. Right across. There we go. Here's the little foot. You can hardly see it, just like on the real little mouse. Okay, we'll tie this in at the end because we want the placement for other feet. But this is number 2 right here. I already know the place and I see the place from right across. Good. And I take this tail. And go right in here. And go to the other side. I don't need it for placement, but it's nice to have the balance. There we go, tiny little feet. Help my little mouse walk. Okay, now I need to clean this up. Because I have wool rowing inside, things are gonna felt neatly on the inside. I don't need to tie any type of knots or anything like that. Just gonna go through the figure and then cut it off on the other side. So just like this. And go right around the stitch, through the middle, pull it out, trim it to, be careful not to cut your work when you do this. I'll do this one. The ones in the back we're going to leave for placement of the rear legs, little feet. And you may be wondering, is this detailed enough? But if you, and I know you don't want to see a little mouse really in your house, but if you spend some time in the field, in the garden, by a wood pile, you might be able to spot one, and you'll see how their bodies kind of contort into different shapes that they need to squeeze through things. So you often will just see little feet sticking out like that, which is plenty for our little knitted mouse figure. So let's have 2 more little feet attached, and you're done, and you have your tiny little mouse made from remnants of your yarn from your little yarn stash. If you have the color of yarn that you think will be perfect for the feet, you don't need to do the doubling of the yarn like I did. You really don't. Now, some of my students are very detail oriented, and they notice that I have the seam along the side here, the sewn seam. I like to do that because I think it hides it better. But if you'd like to have it on the bottom, like along the middle of the belly, you can do that as well. Either way is totally okay to do. This one needs to be going away. And don't be afraid to squeeze the figure while you're doing this, because you will then use your fingers to fluff it back up in place. Okay, one more little leg needs to be attached. Again, if you didn't want to attach the little feet, you didn't have to. I kind of think they're cute, but you don't have to if you don't want to do that. It would be so much fun to know what you're using these miniature figures for if you're making them. Are you telling stories with them? Are they becoming ornaments? Are they added to a toy collection of a child? Do share in the comments the things that you are making and where they're finding their lives. It is so inspiring to read that and to know where these projects take people. So I know that it can feel like a chore to really hide these ends inside the figure, but it really is so much nicer than tying knots. And it's also keeping them more secure, because as you handle the toy, they're going to felt inside the wool roving, get tangled up in there so that they don't fall out as easily as a knot would. We're almost done. Almost done with our tiny little mouse miniature. This last one, if you're making a little ornament that's going to hang somewhere, you can use it to do that. Just make sure it goes in the middle in the right place. If it needs to attach to something, you can use it to attach it to something. Or you can trim it off. And you're finished. Your first little mouse miniature knit is done. Little feet, the little whiskers. Position the ears nicely. Push the body to this, depending on where he is. There you are. You might be climbing on a sock. Scurrying around. If you want, you can grab a little bit of wool and give him a tiny little hat. He might want to have a tiny little hat. Feel free to embellish your little creations and make them more interesting. I don't know, maybe this hat has a little bobble on top. You could even needle felt a little jacket onto your mouse or a scarf. I think this little guy is happy with just the hat and his round ears and his whiskers, his tiny little feet walking. Share some of your creations. Give them as gifts, make them more interesting, more embellished. And if you're inspired to make larger toys or more articulated mice or animals that look more like characters, we can do some of that too. For now, let's keep learning how to do little miniatures from our remnants in our little stash baskets. There's plenty of white, so we might do a little goat or a little white mouse, maybe a little polar bear or a little sheep. We will see.